in Madhouse Bar Talk, where the drinks stay spittin', views going wild like a monkey gone rogue, running his own lane in a circus of smoke. Vito hit the eject, dipped out the scene. Jimmy steered the chaos, kept it lean and mean, no co-pilot needed. He thrives in the clash, controversies, the stash, raking views with a dash. Madness on the mic, sipping truth like it's gin. Every episode's a fight, who's the champ of the spin? Randoms on the stool, spill tales from the void. Jimmy plays the villain, but the people stay buoyed. Solo flight, no wingman, just the heat. Questions unscripted, got him squirm in the seat. Joe Rogan whispers, but Jimmy got roar. Clickbait machetes hacking straight to the core. Bar feels alive when the topics get steamy. Listeners keep clicking saying this fool's dreamy. Drama be the fuel, chaos be the plan. Welcome to the Madhouse, hosted by one madman.
Good morning, Madhouse Bar Talk. We got a powerhouse in the house today. We got Tony Giardini, the real estate mogul that has really given a lot to Lorain in his development. Is that something you do deliberately?
It is.
Is it Lorain? You love the city and always going to do it, huh?
Yep. Only Lorain.
And where was your dad's bar? Was that Lorain or was it Vermilion?
Actually, it was Vermilion.
It was Vermilion.
Close to the border. It was about a mile west of the Ford plant.
Okay.
And the Ford plant was right at the borderline.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you guys lived in Lorain?
Oh, yeah.
So you grew up in Lorain?
100%.
It was a different world back then, huh?
It was. It was a good world. But
Yeah. Even my day and age, it was. And I'm only 51. It was just a lot nicer. Not as nice as what you've seen, I'm sure, but a lot nicer.
I saw both, actually.
Well, yeah, but I mean, yeah.
Like at this time of year, summertime, steel mill, of course, was rolling. I was born in 1951, and steel mill was rolling in the 50s and the 60s. If you came down here when the mill was running, you might not be able to. You might have to turn your headlights on.
Yeah, because of the smog, you mean?
Yeah.
And that was in the 60s, you're saying?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
I remember we lived on the 30th Street projects when I was a kid.
Okay.
So we were one block in, basically, two blocks in.
Sure.
And I remember the cars would get like specks of like rust on them.
Oh, yeah.
Because there would be and it would be an orange like haze, but it wasn't like where you'd have, not as bad as what you're saying, but there definitely was some smog involved.
Because it was cleaned up a lot by then.
Yeah.
Actually under Nixon, the Clean Air and the Clean Water Acts were passed, and as a result, steel mill cleaned up quite a bit.
A lot of that started from the fire in Cleveland, right? The EPA and all that?
Probably didn't help that the Cuyahoga River caught on fire.
Have you ever deep dived into that at all?
I wouldn't say deep dive, but I mean, I knew a little bit about that fire and why it happened.
That fire was the beginning of the EPA.
Yeah.
It was the absolute beginning.
Yeah.
But it wasn't that big of a deal.
It wasn't.
It wasn't even the biggest one in Cleveland.
Correct.
And they were happening in Chicago, New York, everywhere. It was happening everywhere because they were just basically dumping shit right in the river, not even paying attention.
Oh, yeah. Killing the rivers, all over Black River, the same way.
But we're the ones who get the...
Yeah. For some reason, when it happened, because it was in the paper, of course, and we all heard about it, but like you said, it was a big deal, but not like that big a deal around here. But nationally, it just caught fire.
And and the picture that's in Time magazine during that time frame, that's not even that fire. It's like a year or two earlier.
I didn't know that.
It's not even the actual fire. It's like a year or two earlier.
Hilarious, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's just, you can't make this shit up.
Shows you how the media can manipulate things.
Sure. Well, they just didn't have a photo of that one.
Yeah.
Is all it was. It was very similar.
Right. We're showing you what it looked like.
Yeah.
Or
what it could look like.
Yeah, or it could look like.
Better than today. Today would be AI, and it would just the whole thing.
Oh, no lie. They would just create the fire.
So I've always heard of Tony Giardini. We have mutual friends, Mark Ballard and the Campanas, and I mean, I've always heard of you, and I knew you were in you did the thing down there with the townhouses or on the river, and I mean that's beautiful. I mean that's absolutely Harborwalk. Is that what it's called?
Yeah,
it's beautiful out there. And then now you've got the Shipyard. Yep. You did have a restaurant in there. Now, what is it now exactly?
So it's still a restaurant, actually a bigger restaurant, a better restaurant than although my dad owned a bar, I'm not a restaurant guy. I'm a lawyer. But when we bought the building, which we named the Shipyards after we bought it, it's about a 25,000 square foot building, up and down, all concrete brick building, used by American Shipbuilding Company for 100 years when they were building ships there. And Spitzer bought that whole property from Steinbrenner, a deal that I actually represented Steinbrenner on.
Oh, no kidding.
Oh yeah, I represented American Ship back then, but after they closed, they wanted to sell it. The Spitzer family and the Steinbrenner family were good friends, and Al Spitzer convinced George Steinbrenner to sell him the whole 56 acres, and he did. That building was the last remaining building.
And Spitzer did that because didn't he want to put a casino in there?
100%.
Yeah, I thought that. Yeah,
I actually wrote the legislation for the casino.
and it never happened, huh?
We came close.
Yeah, why didn't it go down?
That's a story in and of itself. So Joe Kajura was in the state legislature at the time.
Okay.
He's a good friend of mine. And back then, Democrats controlled, for sure, the House, and might have controlled the Senate, believe it or not, and had a governor. Dick Celeste was the governor. And although Dick was opposed to gambling from a moral point of view, he told, when we went to Joe and said, we want to get legislation passed that would allow for a pilot project casino. Remember, no place in Ohio was it legal. In fact, casino gambling was only legal in New Jersey and in
It wasn't even New York then?
No.
You didn't even have Pasquale and all that out there?
No.
Oh, okay.
No,
okay, I didn't know that.
No Indian gaming, no nothing. And so we were way, way out in front of what now is pretty commonplace.
Sure.
And so I went to him, went to Joe, and I said, listen, would you be willing to carry the bill if we did it? He said, it's for Lorain. I'll do it for Lorain because I think it would be good for Lorain. We showed him all the numbers. It would have been fabulous for Lorain in terms of jobs. Now, it would still been gambling, and it's got its negatives, and
right.
No question about it. But I wrote the legislation along with the Legislative Service Commission. We got it, believe it or not, we got it passed in the House. I mean, by a pretty comfortable margin. Al Spitzer and I personally lobbied the bill, and Joe used his influence with buddies that he had in the legislature, and they did it on a pilot project basis. And we had the votes in the Senate. We had 19, maybe 20 votes in the Senate committed to us. We needed 17 to pass. And as soon as we passed in the House, the racetrack industry, led by Ed DeBartolo Sr., was still alive back then. He had a lot of influence. I mean, outsized influence.
Right.
And in the Senate, he killed it.
No kidding.
It never even came to a vote.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And that's how it died, huh?
And that's how it died. And Mike White, who later became mayor of Cleveland, was in the Senate.
Did they revisit it when the other casinos were going in, or it wasn't even a chance then?
So we then put together a consortium, ironically, that included Eddie DeBartolo Jr. By then, Sr. had passed away. Jr. recognized that it would be a good thing, even though it was the racetracks. Eddie Sr. owned Thistledown.
Yes.
And
yeah.
he thought it would kill, casino gambling would kill racetracks. He was probably right to some extent. Anyhow, Junior had a completely different view of it. In fact, Junior and I and Spitzer became pretty good friends, which is more stories. But the bottom line is we then put a consortium together of Cleveland guys and us, and we put it on the ballot. But we got beat. And it wasn't until, 15 years later that Cleveland got it done because, basically one billionaire went in there and he
took care of it.
They got to put it on the ballot again and, got it passed.
Yeah. Yeah, I think people were more sustained. I mean, they're right now, they're literally Manning and he's got Bill, he's trying to put it on your phone now, which I think is miserable. I don't think we should do.
I think it's bad.
But I've heard that though. I heard that governor's just going to shut it down. It's not happening. If it comes to him, he's just going to shut it down.
It's a bad idea.
It's a horrible idea.
We, a lot of people were upset with us. Not in Lorain. It passed that issue when it was on the ballot. Got 72% of the vote in Lorain.
I voted for it, yeah.
Got 60% of the vote in Lorain County and passed basically in Northeast Ohio. It just got slaughtered down south. But it was going to be isolated. It had a lot of restrictions. We built so many restrictions into it. The guys in Vegas said, you're not going to be able to make any money. And we said, we will be literally the only game in town. We'll make money and we'll be very restrictive. And eventually, a couple of them came to us and said, if you get it done, we'd like to be your partners. But it didn't happen. And the rest is history.
And then Spitzer sold it to you.
So,
or is he partnered with you on that?
No. I bought the building from him. He did the development. So he basically came to me because I was running a lot of the operations for the company. Excuse me. And he said, let's come up with a plan for the 56 acres. He already had the marina there. And he said, we got to do something with the rest of the land. It's just sitting there doing nothing. And that's when he and I and really his real estate person, Kathy Schuster, who I had hired into the company, we went around and saw what other communities had waterfront property and what they were doing. And we saw housing was the big thing back. That's over 20 years ago now. And I came back to him and I said, I'd like to hire an architect and a planner, and I'd like to put together a plan to put housing there. And he says, all right, move forward. And we did, and got the city to put a TIF in to allow the real estate taxes to pay for the improvements. And we just put that plan together. Took us probably 3 years to do it. Finally got started in around 2001, 2002.
It's a shame that we haven't really it really hasn't spread out yet. It's starting to downtown now. Mm-hmm. It's a shame the east side of Lorain hasn't done more moving, you would think it would yet, but it just hasn't quite done it yet.
It's getting there, though. It's getting there. I mean, back then, even before that, Lakeside, what is Lakeside Avenue now, was a dump.
Oh,
just all ratty houses, run down, and back then, the Port Authority director was a good friend, and he and I talked, and I said he wanted my help passing a levy, and I said, I'm going to tell you right now, nobody's going to vote for a port levy, because this would have been one of our first, unless they can see that they can use that lake. Right now, the lake is kind of go to Lakeview Beach, and that's about it. I said, we need to have a facility here that everybody can use and that they can see the results of. And that's when they came up with a plan to buy what remaining houses were on Lakeside Avenue, which were on the lake side of Lakeside Avenue. Bought them, tore them all down. It's open space today, which is what it should be. Now, the people on the other side of Lakeside Avenue ended up getting a great view, but that's the way it works.
But they had a lot of those houses. A lot of the reason people didn't want to invest, there was some issues with erosion. They were worried, so nobody really wanted to invest because there wasn't enough property to get off of that cliff.
Yep.
And there was some erosion issues there because I actually had when I was a kid, I lived on the east side for a while. So, I mean, a lot of my friends, I know that was a big problem for their parents and their houses, for sure.
100%, and still is if you go down further east from there. So, yeah, they have no incentive to invest in it, but meanwhile, they're becoming dilapidated.
Sure.
And buying them, tearing them down, and turning it into open parkland, which is what it is now. And then right after that, then they put the marina in, which Spitzer won the first bid. Actually, he didn't win the bid. Dennis O'Toole, a lawyer, and some partners put it together. But then Spitzer bought them out when they were having trouble was, I think, a recession, and boaters weren't boating as much as they thought they would, and eventually Spitzer bought it out, had it for 30 years,
Okay.
and now it's Oasis, which is some
They're out of New York, right? Oasis.
Baltimore.
Baltimore, is that what it is? Yeah, it's some out of state. I seen, because that was they have the where the old Jackalope and all that is all part of that too, right?
Correct. They lease it from the Port Authority.
Yeah. And then you just win that bid. That's how it works. You just like you can bid on it to have that lease essentially, but you never can own it or anything.
Correct.
Okay. Kind of the bait shops used to be like that. The one I remember, Hot Waters, was like that. You would have to bid to get it. I remember that.
That's right.
Years ago.
Because it's public property, so nobody can really own it.
I got you.
I mean, part of it's actually owned by the state. Federal government controls part of it. So yeah, it's a good arrangement. I'm suspecting probably Sandusky is similar. Any of these lakeside.
I don't. The only reason I don't dock my boat in Lorain is, well, one, there's the distance. I mean, it's already. I'm in Vermilion. When I come out of the Vermilion River, I'm to go to the islands. When I say distance, I do a lot of island hopping, or used to. I haven't been there this year, but
yeah, that you were saying, it's too bad.
Yeah, so it's like an hour, coming out of the mouth of the river. It takes me, coming down the river and then out. It's about an hour before I get to Puddin Bay 45 to Kelly's or whatever. Yeah. And it just adds to it when you go all the way further down Lorain. But then also my marina is just like Valley Harbor down there. We have like an area for a fire pit, and we have like a little bit of land in front and picnic table, and
a little more rustic.
Yeah, and it's kind of like a hillbilly yacht club kind of thing, and it's nice because I like to just go. When I go, I want to relax. I mean, and I don't want to just be stuck on the boat, sitting in the dock or something when I go down there.
The Spitzer Marina was a lot like that for a long time until we put the housing development in. And we lost a lot of boaters, dockers because of it, because they had that nice little kind of almost rural, secluded, no people around thing. And
which I feel like they should do right here in the backside of the mill. I think they should do something like that in there. I think they should bring 57 straight in. And I think that would be amazing. I mean, I would bring my boat there immediately if they did it. I would think it would be perfect.
I think they're missing the boat by not doing it.
I don't know how you do that, though. Don't you have to? You'd have to get the land from them to put the road through and all that. It's a fight. It's
easier to say than to do, not from a construction point of view, but from a legal point of view, getting it. And, you got some contaminated land there, I'm sure, and plus the Mexican company that owns it doesn't seem to want to relinquish control for whatever reason. Doesn't seem to.
Can you raise their taxes until they do?
I think the mayor tried sending the building department in to do.
I saw that they did the flyovers.
Oh yeah,
I saw that. Yeah,
it got them moving a little bit on some things.
Yeah, those buildings are in bad shape. I didn't realize how bad a shape they were in.
Horrible.
Paulie, who docks with me in Vermilion, he used to run a lot of the mill back in the day, like a lot of so they brought him in out of retirement to try and get some of that stuff up and running again.
Yeah.
When they tried to open up, what was that, like 4 years ago or 5 years ago, whatever it was.
Right.
And he went in and he goes, there's just like,
no way.
Yeah. He goes, the parts are like mechanical. You can't get them no more. Now everything's computer. He goes, everything just needs like wiped out basically.
Yeah.
And that's sad. I mean, and then when you seen the flyover after that, I saw the flyover. It's like, the roofs are caved in. I mean, it's just sitting there rotting. There's no reason for that.
There really isn't. It's actually up.
Do they have it up for sale at all, or do they just sit on it?
Well, I've heard various rumors. I have heard that they are in negotiations with a company that might want to convert it into something different, not a steel mill. But I heard that over a year ago, and I still haven't seen it happen.
Yeah, that's what I keep hearing these things, but I never see nothing.
Yeah. Now, maybe they're doing their due diligence. Maybe they're waiting to see what this administration does, because if it's what I heard, it might be who is in control of Congress and the presidency could have an impact on it in terms of what they want to do with it.
Oh, I got you.
Yeah. And I don't know. It's, I think it had to do with renewable renewables.
Yeah.
Some people thought it was going to be one of those, what do they call them, the big warehouses where they have all the servers, like a server farm.
Oh, yeah.
But I was assured it wasn't that.
Yeah, those things chew up a lot of electricity, a lot of resources, a lot of water.
They do.
But I mean, they're necessary. We have to do it because China and everybody else is going to do it. I mean, if America doesn't, do it, we're going to be in bad shape.
We're already second place to China.
Yes.
China's beaten us in so many places, it's not even funny.
We allowed that. We send over our products and have them design them or build them after we've designed them.
Yeah.
And give them all our technology, all our learning. I mean, it's just bad choices for a long time, and it's horrible. And I know you're not a Trumper, but I feel like he's trying to force the hand to fix that. I feel like he's doing probably the best anyone could do right now.
The one area where I agree with the president, and it's in that area right there, as it relates to China.
Right.
You're right. For 30 years, we didn't just allow it. We helped them
Absolutely.
take our technology. We didn't push back. I remember talking to buddies of mine who worked at Nordson, and they were, back 40 years ago, they were the leader in many areas, including robotics. He said, we would build machines, take them over there, go over there ourselves, show them how to use it. They took our technology, which we allowed them to do, or stole it. Either way, they ended up with it. And basically, we're building ourselves right out of a job.
Yeah, they need to put in a national or international copyright. It needs to happen. An international copyright needs to happen on a world stage. It has to. I mean, to me, it has to.
Yeah.
Because we're so... well, and part of that is I believe America's obsessed with free and cheap labor. Americans have done it since slavery. Then they've done it with cheap labor they're sending over. They're doing it with illegal immigrants. So, people always are going, well, what are you going to do? What are you going to... the thing is, when I was a kid, I remember if your family wanted a couch, you had to save up for it. It was going to take a while. They were expensive.
That's right.
They weren't cheap.
Yeah.
Same with a TV. TV was like, you get a floor model TV, it was gonna, your grandpa, my grandpa, he was going to have to stack some cash for a while to afford such a thing. Right. And then they go, well, we're going to be in such bad shape. Well, that's okay. Yeah. If you have to save up a little bit to get a TV, or if you have to save up to get, as long as the people that made the TV can have their own TV.
Yeah, we're working here, right? I mean, it seems like such a basic thing.
It feels like it, yeah.
And we have the globalists, as they call them. They had a plan, and they executed their plan very, very well, and they made a ton of money. That's why there are so many billionaires in this world today, because we put 1 billion Chinese to work for us.
Right. Yeah, I agree.
And send us stuff, and we became a consumer-oriented society. Look, I worked at the Ford plant in 1969, 70, 71 in Lorain. I got paid well to do it. Believe it or not, I made enough money in the summer, 3 months working in the summer. And living with my parents, I saved my paychecks. I saved enough money to pay for a room, board, and tuition at Miami University in Ohio. So a state school, not a private school, but a good one.
Right.
And then for my beer money and my book money, I worked at the Kroger store, which was also unionized, down in Oxford at night and on weekends. So without borrowing one dime, without getting a penny from my dad, he had 3 other younger kids in the house to take care of when I graduated. Without taking a dime from him, I paid for 4 years of college at Miami University.
In one summer?
No, every summer.
Okay.
Yeah,
I was like, whoa,
right,
wait a minute. Okay.
No, back then, room board tuition was about $3,600 for a year.
So you could do that over the summer, come home, and they would put you on every summer?
Every summer.
Oh, that's awesome.
Oh, yeah.
Do they do that now, summer jobs like that?
No, back then. So that the guys who work regularly there, that they would take their vacations in the summer. They would, you know, I mean,
And in the 60s and early 70s, people would take 1 month vacations and stuff. That was common. That wasn't like you got a week off. Back then, you would go somewhere for a month, you know.
So for a while, and back then, you got to remember, we didn't work a 40-hour week. We worked 5 10-and-a-half-hour days, and then we would work Saturday 8 hours. So every week was 56 to 60 hours. So almost, 30 hours were overtime hours, which is why we made so much money. My paycheck at Ford at the age of 18 years old was bigger than my dad's paycheck. And he worked at the steel mill, also a unionized situation, but they were working 40 hours. Sometimes they were working real steady. But my, of course, it was a 60-hour paycheck, but my paycheck was bigger than my dad's paycheck.
Right.
Because we worked so many hours there. And so you could really, and we had to, they needed us. Guys were making so much money back then that they would miss work the day after payday. So they actually developed.
That still happened.
They developed a whole crew that worked only Mondays, Fridays, and Saturdays.
That's great. That's hilarious.
No, those guys work year round, Mondays, Fridays, and Saturdays.
That's hilarious.
It is hilarious.
That was a swing shift or something, right?
Yeah, that was the because it's an assembly line. Steel mill you can run if 20% of the guys.
So
don't
most guys get a job at Ford, and they're making big money like that. You just said you're making more than your dad.
Yep.
What makes you go, no, I got to go to college. I can't just have this job and buy a house in the suburbs. I want to go to college and do some big boy stuff.
One summer at Ford solved that problem.
Fair enough.
When you wake up, because I used an air gun to put the screws in my first job was a wiper arm job. You had to put 2 screws in the middle, on the outside of the car, where the middle of the dashboard,
right?
Thunderbird and
Cougars.
And Cougars, yeah. And 2 there, and then you had to put 3 by you because you had 2 wiper arms, right? And you do that for 10 hours a day, and you'll want to do anything else in the whole wide world besides that.
A lot of guys didn't, though. A lot of guys said, "Hey, I can deal with this."
They did,
and we need them.
Yeah,
but I just wondered what made you because a lot of guys take the money and run, and you pushed, and obviously it worked out for you. But
a lot of my buddies did. And if you looked at the 10-year from 18 to 28, they were way ahead of me. Because all my money went into college and then law school.
Right.
Okay. And then law school, I finally met my match, and I couldn't afford to do it without borrowing. I borrowed $10,000 to finish law school. But yeah, they were way ahead of me. But then I made up for it over the next 20 years. But it wasn't my plan. I wasn't smart enough to have a plan like that. I was probably 7 or 8 years old when my grandfather, who I'm named after, he was a lot tougher dude than me and bigger dude, and he came over from Italy, but I'd sit on his lap, and I was like sitting on a tree trunk. He was that strong, that big, that tough. I respected him. But he used to say to me with his 8th grade education, use this, not this. And he'd point to his head, use this, then he'd point to his back, not this. And that made an impression on me.
Huh.
That was my permission to not do what everybody else was doing and become the first member of my family to go to college, because he said it was okay.
Oh, okay. That's impressive.
Yeah, to me, that's all that mattered.
That's all that. Can you imagine that you touch one of your grandkids like that? Just one.
Yeah.
And you've done your job, right?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, and I try to. I have 6 grandkids now, and I don't probably spend as much time with them. I mean, I go to their soccer games and that sort of thing. Back when I was growing up, it was a regular occurrence to go to Grandpa's. And he lived in town. He only lived a few blocks from us.
Right.
And spend an evening just talking about things. And, we don't do that so much anymore. Now we get together. We should.
We should.
It's family life and the things you learn from fathers and mothers and grandfathers. We got to remember our grandparents came to live with us. They seldom went to nursing homes.
Right.
When I was growing up. And yeah, it was a burden, but it was also an opportunity to learn from them. And that's completely gone now. It's why we have a lot of the problems.
Do you think that they felt it was a burden? I never thought they did.
No, they never did, but it was. But we never thought of it that way. Absolutely not.
Yeah,
my grandmother came to. Now, on my dad's side, both of them had to come and live with us at some point in time, or us, or one of my aunts, or the family. On the other side, they did. My grandmother on my mom's side died of a heart attack, hanging clothes outside to dry on a clothesline. She had a heart attack.
Working the day she went, huh?
Yeah. 50, but she was only 58 years old.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
that young.
She had diabetes, and she was overweight, and that probably didn't help matters any. And her husband, my grandfather, Sam, he eventually moved out to Avon and had a couple of acres out there and a garden and all that. And he died, but he never went to a nursing home. He died at home too.
It's the way to go.
It's absolutely.
Who wants to go to a nursing home?
No way, man. I wouldn't let my mom go to a nursing home. She died a couple of years ago. That was the
Are
only.
you a little extra nice to your kids right now, just in case?
I'll tell you right now, me and my sisters made a promise to her: you will never, ever, ever go to a nursing home.
Yeah.
She did.
Yeah.
I had to live with her for the last year, or pretty much live with her. But that was the best year of my life.
You learn a lot. My grandmother, I learned a lot from my grandmother. She wasn't sick, but when I was a young man, for some reason, Sunday morning, now I do the podcast, but the Sunday mornings, I would call my grandmother.
Yeah.
And I learned so much that I had no clue about her and my grandfather.
Yeah.
We would sit and talk. She was with Joe Destro, who had Avon Cleaners and Menswear.
Okay.
And that was after my grandfather died. And he was somebody that I looked up to. I would go visit him after work quite a bit at the Cleaners. I'd sit and talk, and there'd be a bunch of old men in there smoking cigars and telling you smart stuff. Trying.
Yeah.
As a young man, they're telling you things that I probably hadn't thought about yet.
No
you know
question,
what I mean?
right? Absolutely.
Right. So I always enjoyed that. But then on Sundays, I saved that for my grandma. I would call her up every Sunday morning, and I'd spend other time with her. But Sunday morning, we'd spend an hour and a half, 2 hours every Sunday morning on the phone. And I learned about how her and my grandfather came here. I mean, they came here, and they came here because my Uncle Lewis got a job at Ford.
Okay.
So then they came here and went to Spiegelberg Orchards. And they got that house that was up front there.
Oh, yeah.
They rented that. He worked at Danco Metal Products, and he would take a bus from there to there, and she worked picking apples at Spiegelberg, and that's where they started out here, and so they could buy their first car and buy their first house, and all the things that they came from West Virginia. They're hillbillies. Yeah. I'm a hillbilly. My mom's side and my dad's side, we're all hillbillies.
Dude, I grew up on 13th and Reed Avenue, and back then you had the Ford plant. When the Ford plant opened up, of course, a bunch of people came up from Kentucky because they had experience in auto assembly plants. Came up from Kentucky and West Virginia. That was Lorain, man. I mean, my street I had such a great childhood. We had black, some Hispanic, West Virginia, Kentucky, Italian, Polish. I mean, we had it.
It's the international city, man.
There was a Jewish family lived across the street from us. There were two Catholic churches within 2 blocks of each other, Nativity and St. Peter's. One Polish, one Italian. I went to both of them.
That's awesome.
I mean, and people wonder how people from Lorain, especially my generation, are able to get along with such a wide variety of people.
Yeah, we don't ever see. I mean, people are either assholes or good people, and it doesn't really matter race because you grew up with them, and everybody was pretty much the same. I
You
mean,
got it.
Yeah,
You
they
knew who
were. I mean, they just.
You knew who the assholes were, and you knew who the good folks were, and the vast majority were good folks, regardless of what their nationality or ethnicity.
But we made fun of each other.
All the time.
And for nationalities. And
All the
why
time.
can't we do that anymore? That was fun. I mean, it wasn't like
I don't want to.
I never got my feelings hurt.
I don't want to take shots at the left wing of my party, but I can tell you why that shit happened. It's honestly, it's a shame.
Yeah.
I haven't figured out how to do it. But you know what? The people who criticize it, and I don't want to overly generalize here, but a lot of them I noticed live in secluded communities themselves. So they didn't grow up in that kind of environment. Well, if you don't, and if everything you understand about life comes from some professor or some book or some, and clearly there
Belief or guilt.
yeah, correct. And a lot of that. Well, okay, but you temper that understanding that people are people. You know, most of my friends growing up were not Italian. They were everything else. And I understand the original sin of this country very well, and I hate it. But it's not the original sin of the world, because Muslims had slaves when they ruled the Middle
Everybody
East.
did.
Everybody did.
Everybody
At
did.
one time or another. Romans did. So Western civilization didn't invent slavery.
No,
Now,
not at all.
Did it use it to build a lot of what they had? Yeah, they did. But it wasn't the
It
primary.
did, but you know what? People say that, but you know, the big thing to me is that the true wealth in America didn't happen during slavery.
100%.
We blew up after World War II.
We blew up when we allowed more immigrants in and say, well, legally, okay, fine, but was immigrants built this country? No, the proof of it is during the 1800s itself. Look at the North and the industrial North, even before the Civil War, versus the South. We were way more productive in the North than they were in the South. It's why the North won the Civil War.
Right.
They couldn't keep up with us.
Well, because you have people that aren't volunteering to work. They're not getting really truly paid, although they have an expense. Regardless, there's an expense to them. They had to live, they had to eat, they had to. I mean, they were abused and things of that nature. But there definitely was an expense to them. It's not like it was free, like a robot maybe at some point.
No,
But I mean, it's and they're not. They don't have that heart of a volunteer. They don't have that, like, they don't give a shit. Like, they're just going to do just enough not to get whipped. That's it. That's what they were ever going to do. You know, where.
and even if they were working hard, that means they were just going to get worked harder.
Right. Absolutely.
You know,
Yeah.
you
There's no
show that
reason
you can
to.
work
Right.
hard and you got a strong back, but you're going to get worked harder, and you become more valuable. But the point is that the white lower class that were running them, because they felt superior to them, that was the one way they could feel superior to them. They were no better. They weren't much better off.
Right.
They were in charge. Okay, they had the whip. Okay, I get that. But they went back home to homes that didn't have much either. Their educational system wasn't all that much better than, of course,
Well, those plantations were pretty nice for the day, for the time.
for the guy who owned the plantation.
Oh, you mean
for
the other
nobody
guys
else.
that were
I'm
working
talking
with
about
them?
the
Oh,
guys.
I got you.
Plantation owners didn't run their plantations.
Okay.
They hired poor white guys to run their plantations and convinced them, you're going to run this and you're going to run those people there because you're better than them. And didn't pay them much better than, the slaves didn't get paid at all, obviously. But my point is that the South didn't grow with their system the way the North grew with its system. And it's just that simple. The productivity of the North was far superior They were better hunters and fishermen and outdoorsmen, and why they stayed in the war as long as they did is because they learned to shoot at an early age for sport and whatever. But they couldn't keep up with us once we put the industrial might of the North against them, crushed them. Because some you might say, well, it was a more righteous cause that the North had. Oh, whatever. But we just outproduced them.
Yeah, no, it doesn't matter if it's a righteous cause or not. I mean, it's an intelligence thing at the end of the day. Regardless, correct. If you outthink them and outwork them, you're going to get them. You're
gonna win in the end.
Yeah,
that's right.
That doesn't mean you're the best.
It doesn't mean that you're right. It just means that you were better,
stronger.
Yeah,
right.
That's right.
Yeah, that would be like a boxing match.
And that's how the whole world works, and forever. The strong,
it's how humankind
who's
works.
Right that wins. It's who's might is what wins. The Roman Empire controlled most of the world for a very, very, very long time. They were bright. I mean, they did amazing things from an engineering point of view, from a governmental point of view, and so forth. But you can only keep your thumb on people for so long, and eventually even they got beat.
So let's get back to you now. Let's get back to you.
All right.
Instead of Civil War.
Okay.
I know you were there for it. No, I'm just kidding.
Damn near.
But you go to college. You pay for it by working at Ford in the summers.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
You come back here. What do you do when you get back here?
So as soon as I graduated from now keep in mind Vietnam War is going on at the same time. So I had a 2S deferment. I was in the Air Force ROTC in college. My thinking was, if this war is still going on when I get out of here, I want to go in flying airplanes and being an officer. I didn't want to tromp around in a jungle. I was smart enough to know that. I was opposed to the war, but I didn't protest the way a lot of folks did. I was walking around campus in a uniform. Not exactly the best thing to be
right.
in 1969, 1970, but that's what it was. The war finally came to a conclusion around the time that I graduated, and my decision was simple. I'm going right straight to law school, and I did. Lived with an aunt and uncle in Westlake, and I took the bus and the train into Cleveland every day to Case Western Reserve, which is where I went to law school.
Okay.
And the next 3 years, all I did was go to school and study. Had part-time jobs to make some money, but I was living with an aunt and uncle. They paid my room and board, basically. I lived with them. And my deal with them was, when I become a lawyer, you will never have to pay for a lawyer.
That's fair.
And I kept that promise, by the way. That was right. I kept that promise. My uncle said, okay, you got a deal there.
Right.
My Polish uncle said, you got a deal. And my Italian aunt says, you got a deal. And she's still living, by the way, so she gets my legal services for free. And then, I got married my second year, and she was a teacher. Kay was a teacher, and no kids until the deal was until I get out of law school, and until I can afford to pay for you to stay home, we're not having kids. That was the deal. Sounds kind of chauvinistic today, but it was a deal that she and I made together. She grew up on a farm.
I think it's wonderful. My wife stays home.
Yeah.
My first wife, when she was with me, stayed home. And it's not because I wouldn't stop them from doing it. But if I can have them there with the kids, I will break my back to make that happen. I will do that.
100%. Kay grew up on a farm in Oxford. She's a townie. And but we met at Miami University. She went there and she was in their school of education. So she was a farmer, Republican, strong Republican family, very conservative. But you know what? My father-in-law, my mother-in-law, they're German and part American Indian. My father-in-law was part American Indian, mostly German. Farmers, Republican. The only thing we had in common, because I was from Northern Ohio, Democrat, steelworker family, right? The only thing we had in common is we were Catholic, so we shared religion and our values. It was amazing how much my values matched up with their values. It was just,
Well, I think that could be true with anybody who has some religious background, and especially the same religious background.
probably. I would say you're right about that. That was, and partly the way I grew up, and I tried to be open-minded to it. I mean, obviously, I was in love with their daughter, so I'm going to pay attention to how
Oh, yeah, at that point, you just met her. You'd have went Jewish if you had to.
right? my father-in-law and my mother-in-law we were close, and I just loved them to this day.
So you've always been in a Democratic Party. It's solely because of your dad was in the mill, you think? I mean, is that, or do you believe their beliefs more than you believe the Republican beliefs?
Let me tell you a funny story. My dad ran for public office one time and only one time.
Okay.
He ran as a Republican.
He did?
I still have a copy of his yard sign.
See, you should, in honor of your dad, you should switch parties. Just saying.
My dad, he did it on a barroom bet. We were talking about barrooms. So our third ward was a huge ward back then. That's where we lived. I lived on 13th Street, I was mentioning to you. And you had an Italian community and you had the Polish community. And well, we all obviously got along, but we had our separate churches, and the council person there was Polish and a pretty popular guy. And there were more Polish people who lived in the third ward than there were Italians. Just to show you how voting was even back then.
Yeah. Someone
said, Bernie, why don't you run against him? And my dad supposedly said, I could beat him as a Republican. Now, when I tell you the third ward was Democrat back then,
oh, yeah,
and Lorain was Democrat, let me tell you, it was like off the charts, right? And so my dad says, on a barroom bet, he says, I can beat him as a Republican. And I had some uncles who were Republican. They were in management at U.S. Steel, right? That's how it was back then. Management, accountants, bookkeepers were
sure, right.
Republican, and the guys working in the mill were Democrats. And they put a campaign together for him. Still have it. They put his picture on the sign. You know, it was obvious my dad was Italian because his nickname was Blackie, for crying out loud. Black hair, got dark as hell in the summertime. And right under his name, Republican. And I've got that. It's on my wall in my law office.
You didn't win, though.
It was 1,000 to 800.
Oh, that's pretty close,
yeah,
actually. That's closer than I would think.
Well, all the Italians voted for my dad. All the Polish voted for God Lesky.
Well, I mean, because I think that's a big part of the problem with Lorain, in my opinion. And I know you were on the Democratic committee, right?
Oh, yeah, I just chairman.
Oh, you were the chair of it, right?
City chair, and then I became the county chair.
But I feel like the city of Lorain needs some more Republican leadership, some more conservative, business-minded leadership, because they're still voting like everybody's working at Ford and the mill, and they're not.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's an issue, in my opinion. That's how I see it. I mean, I'm not. I tell everybody, I'm not Republican or Democrat. I'm not.
Yeah.
I am conservative, though, for the most part. I'm a pretty conservative guy.
Yeah, so am I.
But I will vote for whoever I think is right or wrong, or that's what I'm voting on. That's it, and that's pretty much how I stick to it. You know.
So my argument to that is this: when I was growing up, there was, again, a very, very Democrat town, but we had a Republican mayor. Woody Mathna got elected mayor as a Republican.
I don't even know who that is. You're way back from me.
Yeah,
and I
you
never
don't.
even heard of that.
That's how long ago it was. But that's my point. So that when Lorain was the most union, the most Democrat ever, Woody Mathna, who walked door to door, the whole city, which was a big city back then.
Like JD did.
Yeah. Walked door to door. And he got to know people on a personal basis. So obviously there were Democrats who voted for him. And Woody was a so-so mayor. he was a somewhat of a populist, and he did things that probably weren't all that proper. But my point is that over the years, we had Woody Mathna, a Republican, as mayor for a couple of terms. Back then, I think they were 2-year terms. We had Bill Parker, who was a Republican councilman. He represented the 7th Ward, which is like the Lakeview area.
Okay.
He was councilman there for probably 15 years. He became mayor. And then you had Craig Fulton. And Craig Fulton...
That was recent. That was pretty recent, yeah.
Relatively.
Relatively. I mean, for me, it is.
Yeah,
it feels like it is.
And Fulton got elected auditor. He had a finance degree, and he was a pretty educated guy. And he later became mayor. So when we talk about, we've had
a couple. It's a little bit. It's
three
mayors, but the rest of it's all been Democrat surroundings. But I don't even think that the problem is in the city of Lorain either. The thought process, I think, is there. There's things that go on in Lorain that drive me nuts. And I'll be honest, I moved my kids out of Lorain when they were kids because at that point I just wasn't doing it. I mean, my youngest daughter stayed the night at a friend's house, and my wife had met his wife, liked her a lot. I talked about this yesterday, and it turned out because I went to pick her up from the sleepover. This was when she was like in first grade or whatever.
Okay.
The kid's dad, I knew was a drug dealer. He had just gotten shot recently. I knew that, but you know what I mean? And I'm just like, this is ridiculous. My wife met her wife, thought that we're getting out of here. Yeah. And we left. We went to Carlisle Township, and I haven't been back to, I take that back. I used to have a apartment building there, and when I got divorced, I moved into it for a little bit. But the thing that drives me nuts about Lorain, more for one, is the school systems and things that they took away from. They take away so many things that I think built good, like the parks. They put the parks in, but it ruined it for the kids. As a kid, we spent all our time in those woods that are now like not dirt bike trails. They're like mountain bike trails or walking trails for, yuppies that, we used to be us kids just out there riding our dirt bikes and playing and having a good time and not really doing anything and just being boys, you know what I mean? Yeah. And staying out of trouble, by the way, for the most part. I mean, like every kid, we get in it, you're going to do some stuff, but for the most part, we weren't hurting each other or anything. So that bugs me. The auto body shops not being in the high schools anymore, or the OWE programs and things that they used to have that were like Harrison and Charleston. I'm a product of both. I went to Charleston and Harrison when I was a kid. Now, Charleston, I don't think worked. The kids I went to school with in Charleston, most of them ended up in prison anyways. I'm probably one of the few exceptions of Charleston, but Harrison, that program, everybody I know out of there, and I'm not saying anybody's, developing the Harborwalk, but I mean, they probably did the floors in it, or maybe the drywall. I don't know. I mean, they're all working, paying their bills, they're doing good. You know what I mean? And it just programs like that, I think, are more necessary. Those vocational programs that are focused on hard work instead of, like you say, you didn't want to work, you want to use your brain, not your back. Yeah. Some kids aren't built to use their brain. No, they're built to build, and we need them. Well,
that was the mistake that I think this country made when it almost uniformly decided that only getting a college degree was the only way that you could be successful. We convinced our kids of that. And you're right. Not everybody is built that way. I'm reading a book about it right now, written by a guy who is in favor of the tariff policy that the president has put in place. He's a bright guy, and he talks about that. And he backs it up with some strong statistics. Globalism makes sense if you take the position that, well, in this country, we're just all going to be college-educated consumers. We're not going to make anything. and we'll let the undereducated people of China or India or wherever make all of our stuff for us. And they'll just work for us, and we can have an economy where we just basically provide all the services. Did I do something?
No, it just popped up a antivirus software, believe it or not.
I believe it. And I think that was a mistake. I think that that making things, building things, having a job where you don't necessarily need to be educated. Let's not make any mistake about that. You can't be a dummy and build a house. I don't care. You just can't. You can't be a dummy and work in an auto assembly plant today. You just can't, because robots do a lot of the work. That job I had, putting 5 screws in for a wiper arm, that job can be done better, faster by a robot than I could have ever done it. And it doesn't take time off, and its hands don't bleed, and it shows up every single day for work. But that doesn't mean that you can't have an auto assembly plant where people are working and what I would consider essentially doing manual type labor that requires some education. That's the mistake we made.
But that's vocational school education.
100% vocational school. And I preach it all the time. I preach it all the time.
But you got juice in Lorain schools, don't you?
Well, I represent them, and I have for a long time, but I don't have any say in policy. I represent them. I went to represent them probably about 10 years ago when they asked me to, because school district was spending $500,000 a year in legal fees to law firms in Cleveland and outside the area. And a new group of board members came in who I think probably thought a little bit more like I do. And they said, you understand school law, because as an assistant law director 45 years ago, I represented the school district when they asked us to.
Okay.
The law director has to represent school district if the school district asks.
Okay.
And I did. I was assigned to it, I should say. So I knew some school law, and I said, okay, I'll come back, but just for a period of time until we get things straightened out. Our relationship with our unions, we have 7 unions in the Lorain School District, believe it or not, it was terrible. And in my first year, I lowered legal fees from over $400,000 a year. That year was under $200,000. And I worked my butt off for them, and I still had some outside lawyers that had to do some of the things that I couldn't do. But the total of all legal fees was cut in half, and has stayed half or a third of what it had been since then. But my job is to represent them, not to tell them what they should do. I mean, do I offer up an opinion now and again about things? Probably. But I think the current administration, the current school board, I think they understand the value of vocation. I think they understand the value of fine arts. So you can't go from one extreme where everybody has to have a college education to the other extreme where nobody gets a college education.
Well, there was no reason to be an extreme. It was fine how it was.
Yeah.
And I think that in the 90s per se, if you had the desire to go to college, or 80s, I'll even go back to, I think more before the 90s, that if you had the desire to go to college because that's something that your grandpa told you, then God bless you, go do it. But there was other people that, for one, they got somebody pregnant. It doesn't mean it's the end of the world. Right. Now you got to go to work at Ford.
Yeah, and yeah, exactly. But a lot of what happened to Lorain wasn't because of Lorain. We were the victim of policies that were made in Washington, D.C. And that's the truth. So when the decision was made to be more global in nature, well, all of a sudden that Ford worker, I was one of them, couldn't compete with some guy in China who was willing to build a car for 1/10 of what they paid me to do it. or even Mexico, where
Well, NAFTA was a big problem. Like NAFTA was horrible. It was, and I knew it at the time because my mother worked at Lorain Products.
okay,
And she trained Mexicans to do her job. Like, why are you doing that? And she goes, oh, we need to be a world. My mom's a Democrat, by the way. She's a lesbian, married to a woman. They live on a farm in Amish country. They're Democrats, 100%.
Okay. Yeah.
But she was all about it. Like, she's just like, oh, we're supposed to be global, this NAFTA thing, like, this is all.
Yeah.
But then she started to see, like, this isn't going to work out. Like, she could tell.
We all, a lot of very intelligent people bought in to that whole thing. Bill Clinton, really was the architect of that. Smart guy. Really smart guy. Balanced the budget, by the way. No, I mean,
bullshit.
Come on, dude. Come on. Oh, I can prove it to you.
I can prove to you that that's a fact, that your stats are full of shit, and I'll tell you why.
Okay, tell me.
In that time, I was a carpenter.
Okay.
I was working full time, 7 days a week, busting ass all through that, and work was hard. There was a lot of work. There was a lot. You know what we were building?
No.
We were building internet companies and tech companies that were working on Y2K. They caused a false flag that all of a sudden this country boomed trying to solve this extra zeros that were going to happen with Y2K.
Okay.
As soon as it didn't happen, everything collapsed, and they say, oh, this is this guy, and this guy was the greatest guy. Nothing he did caused that other than a pandemic of Y2K. And that's all we were building at the time. That's it.
Are you saying that we didn't balance the budget, or are you just saying that
I'm saying that there was a lot of money and work coming in, and everybody was working because, and I'm not saying
no, I'll buy that.
It didn't happen under his, but I don't give him credit. I refuse to give him credit. Okay. I refuse, because NAFTA's the worst thing that ever happened in this country. I'm
not necessarily giving him credit for it. I'm saying he was president at the time.
But a lot of people say Bush actually put together NAFTA, and it just kind of landed and Clinton finished it. A lot of people say it. So to be fair, I'm not saying it's 100%. No, I always thought it was.
Newt Gingrich actually forced the hand of Clinton. If you recall, Gingrich came in with his contract with America, and Gingrich pushed. He's like, we're balancing this budget, and Clinton, didn't have much choice in the matter because they control the House.
But there was a lot of money flowing in the late '90s. It was we couldn't get about it. We couldn't get. We would go frame a job out. Mm-hmm. And we wouldn't see that job for 4 months because they couldn't get electricians or plumbers. They were coming from Canada. They were coming from everywhere we just didn't have anybody.
But he also cut a lot of federal employment back then too, and that helped.
That does help
to it.
Yeah.
And that's a statistical fact that they cut federal employment by a significant margin. And I guess my point is this, that we were capable of balance. By the way, I'm a balanced budget guy.
Yeah.
I think where we're going right now is going to lead us into some serious problems. We don't get our debt under control.
I agree 100%. And I think that this big, beautiful bill can make it worse. I believe if everything goes like if he puts the big, beautiful bill in play right now, mm-hmm. and it runs its course, mm-hmm. 15, 20 years, mm-hmm. I think we're good. The problem is he's only got 4.
Yeah.
And then things change, and then they're going to change this. They're not going to run with the initial thoughts of it. And how you master that and plan that, I don't know. That's a problem in America that we have, changing leadership. I'm not saying I don't want it that way, but when everybody's so opposites and on each end, and I mean, it's just so. And I don't even know what the Democrats are going to do. I mean, do you have any clue who they want to put in on a candidate?
Freaking clue.
I mean, you're probably the best option. You're probably the best option.
someone who thinks like me is the best option. I'll tell you that right now.
Tony Giardini for president.
Although I can say that I am younger than, for the first time in my life, I'm younger than our president. I couldn't say that before.
Yeah.
Biden.
Yeah. That's, but I don't, isn't Trump the same age anyways? I mean, aren't they the same age pretty much?
He's a couple years younger than Biden.
Is he?
Yeah.
It ain't by much.
No, not by much, a couple of years.
Yeah.
And he's older than me. I know that. He's 78 now, I think.
Is he?
What was his birthday? Well, his birthday was just... his
Day.
birthday's
June 14th.
Freaking week before mine.
Is it?
Yeah.
So you guys are just alike.
Yeah, we're...
Both Geminis.
Both Gemini.
2 peas in a pod, you two.
Yeah, there it is.
But you know, the thing is, he was a Democrat his whole life.
Yeah.
And I'd argue, I'd argue he's not a Republican now. I don't see anything that he does that's Republican.
The guy is not a Republican.
And nothing he does is Republican. But the Democrats fight him. It's like, it doesn't make sense. He's giving you exactly what you asked for.
Yeah, don't even want to get me started on this.
I mean, that's
the
just
way
it's weird
we
to me.
have handled this guy from the start has been so ridiculously bad. It's not even funny, and I'm tired of it. And if you read, I know you and I are Facebook friends, and
I saw you sticking up for him on Iran.
Well, and
I saw it. I was like, okay, Tony.
I get smashed a lot from my left flank. I don't care. I'm at the point now where I just don't care. And I'm not the chairman anymore, so I don't have an obligation to toe the party line. I toe my line, and I've told whoever wants to hear it that I'm going to speak my mind about these things while I still have a mind and a voice to use it. And you can like it or not like it, but there are things. I don't care for this president, but I don't care for him because I don't view him as having any convictions. I think he's getting super wealthy. Being president, I think he is maybe
you
the
think
most.
He's getting wealthy getting president?
Oh hell yes!
He's made he's lost money. He's the only president that's lost money.
Now I'm going to call bullshit. I'm going to call bullshit on that. That guy made more money the month before he took office than he probably ever has in his entire damn life.
I don't believe that. Elon Musk certainly lost a lot of money in the process.
Yeah, Elon Musk.
I mean, not that it hurt him. It doesn't much matter.
Yeah, I mean, come on. When what is his net worth? 400 billion or whatever it is.
I think it is.
Okay, so the
470 billion.
The price of Tesla stock went down and his quote unquote net worth changed. The guy got rich on Democrat policies, for God's sakes. You think Tesla would have done what it did if they didn't have the credits that Trump now threatened to take away for EVs?
I think so. Yeah, I think that he was building a better product. I think that the American. See, I believe in capitalism, though. So I believe that he's building a product that's worth it. I think that the value of what he is putting out there is worth it. And he was the first one to actually do it.
He was, and there's no question about that.
And I think that is always going to
do the research.
Success.
Do the research on Tesla. First of all, he didn't form it. He got into the deal.
Me and Guido have had this conversation, and we've deep dived in it. And you're right. He took over Tesla. But they did not have a car that was operating whatsoever.
No, they didn't. Listen,
it's still his car.
I'll give 100%.
Yeah,
I'll give the guy credit for. I looked at buying a Tesla many years ago. I didn't end up doing it because it had.
Because he showed support for Trump.
Oh, hell no.
No, I'm just kidding.
It's like 10 years ago, when Teslas first started coming out. I looked at it just to see what it was like, fast, and they were good-looking vehicles. But my point is that he got loans to help launch it, and then he got the tax credit that came from Democrat policies, helped him. Now, you can say, well, he did a better job with those tax credits and building a product that was a better product than the big three or the other manufacturers. I won't argue that point with you. I think he did, and I think it's taken them a while to catch up with them.
I don't think he'd have as much as he has right now, but I definitely think he would have still dominated the market. And I think we would have been better off for it without EV credits, because I think EV credits are there's like this belief that electric cars don't put a carbon footprint or don't cause a problem, and it's like they don't realize that plugging it in. I mean, it's and I think that it's probably
I've got an electric car. My car out there today is a Volkswagen ID4.
Yeah,
it's made in Tennessee. It's now union made because auto workers took over. And it's a great car. I like the fact that when I'm driving around, I'm not creating emissions, but I get it. When I plug it in at home once a week.
And plus you've killed us. Like our utility bills, I believe that's why our electric bills are so high, because the grids can't handle it now.
Yeah, I plug mine in at night, so I don't know that I try not to plug it in during the daytime.
Sure. Well, probably most people do that, I would imagine. But I mean, my bill here went up.
Did it?
90% maybe since
Jesus,
2019.
Right? Oh, wow.
80%.
I didn't notice my bill increase a whole lot.
In this place, it's easy to notice. At home, not so much, but here it's easy to notice. I mean, here the electric bill skyrocketed, and I actually went through and put all LED lights in. I was a nervous wreck because it just skyrocketed on me overnight, But that doesn't. I mean, I think that it's caused the problem. Everybody's complained about all the electric bills being, higher, and I mean, we're just getting beat up on every end.
Server farms we were talking about before the show, they burn a lot of
same thing. Yeah,
power
you're
too.
right. You're right. Same thing.
Crypto guys burn a lot of power. So there's just, energy demand's going to be there. Period. End of story.
But we're not focusing on.
Well, we need to go nuclear. It's just all there is to it.
Okay, then we agree on something.
Yeah. You can't burn dead dinosaurs to make electricity. We have nuclear. We have submarines that run for 30 years on the same fuel, and it's ridiculous that we don't have nuclear everywhere in this country.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. Although my buddy lives out in Madison, and they get some weird notes. They have some policies that's kind of like, this is what to do if it explodes. I think what you're supposed to do is just say, "Oh shit," and just.
I was just going to say, put your head between your knees and kiss your ass goodbye. Because you're probably going to die. Yeah. Well, okay. But we haven't, to my knowledge, we haven't blown up any nuclear submarines.
No, but the big thing for us was Chernobyl. I mean, that's what everybody that's what everybody looks to as Chernobyl. And that's
run by the Russians.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure they had
stupid people.
Well, they're not stupid people, but they don't exactly have a building code that is comparable to ours, and there's a lot of corruption in that system, and it was built by a communist system, for crying out loud.
Sure, yeah, you do what you're told.
Yeah.
I agree with that. Yeah. I 100% agree with that.
So, yeah, I get it. Chernobyl was a bad thing. I mean, we had 3 Mile Island. I'm not saying there haven't been problems with nuclear, but for crying out loud. We put a man on the moon. You do believe that, right?
No, God, no. How can you believe that? You believe that?
Yeah, I believe it.
So this is my question. We're going to talk about this. I guess we got to get into this.
Whatever you want, brother.
If you believe it, I got to know.
Okay.
What? So, but we haven't been back.
Yeah.
We haven't been back.
And we have been back.
Well. Not since 74 or something.
You mean with a person sitting on the moon?
Correct. Oh, yeah. Okay. It's always about the person. Yeah, it's always about people being on the moon. I know that we have had machines on the moon.
Okay.
I don't think human life has been in the moon. I don't believe so. No. They say they've lost the technology. That's what they say. What?
Oh, they losing technology.
That's what it's. That's actual NASA's explanation.
Elon Musk wants to put people on frickin' Mars,
but he hasn't. Nobody still went past the.
Do you think Elon Musk? Because he's serious about that.
That's all he cares about. I think that's the only thing he thinks about.
So do you think he would be thinking about putting people on Mars if he didn't believe that we put a person on the moon?
He personally believes that we put a person on the moon.
Okay,
I know that. I've heard him say it.
Yeah.
I've seen him in an interview say it.
Yeah.
I don't, though. And I never even thought about it until this year is the only time I started thinking about it.
Really?
I never even considered it. I've seen it. I saw that, okay, whatever. Then you start looking at it. If you deep dive, it's hard to say you agree with them. I mean, there's nothing about it that looks, I mean, it all looks Hollywood. I mean, there's nothing about it that looks like that could be real.
Right. We're going to have to agree to disagree on that one.
I mean, you've seen it happen in real life, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. You watched a ship when it left the moon?
What, you mean from the cameras?
Yeah, when you were a kid, when they showed it left the moon and the camera followed it as it left the moon. Do you remember that? How did it do that?
I don't remember a camera.
Look again, it did. And it followed. This camera followed. So they timed it perfectly from NASA here on Earth with a delay all the way to the moon. They delayed it perfectly so that that camera fall, because supposedly they remote controlled it right here from this camera that was left behind.
A lot is.
So they timed it perfectly to keep up with the spaceship as it's leaving. Come on now, it's impossible. There's no possible way. It's just not possible.
Man, it's a pretty that is a pretty tough deal to keep that.
They haven't. One of the astronauts said that didn't happen. He's flat out said it. Who is it?
Not one of the ones who went onto the moon.
Yes, it is.
No.
Aldridge, I think.
Said that they weren't there.
Yes, absolutely. In a meeting, he said that or in a conference, he's sitting there. He goes, I don't want to talk about it. We know that's not real.
Okay. I haven't seen that. I saw
Buzz Aldridge, that's his name.
Yeah.
He said it. Look it up. I promise.
Okay, I will.
He said he's never been there.
Okay, I'm going to look it up.
I mean, it's just, I don't know. And up until this year, I never even thought about it.
I mean, I don't really care one way or the other whether we went to the moon.
I kind of do.
I use that as an example. Forget about the person then.
We've been to the moon, yes. The technology has been there.
And I use that as a phrase to say we've been to the moon. We can figure out nuclear power. So I don't care whether a human being was on the moon or not. I believe that one was. So what? But the technology, the point is that we are smart enough people.
Sure.
Chinese
we don't even have to be smart anymore now.
That we can.
The AI will walk us through it.
AI only knows what it's been taught.
No, not anymore.
Yeah.
Not anymore. It's learning.
Where's it? Well, it's learning.
It's learning.
But it's learning from what
and that
other
Google
people
one,
put into
that Google,
it is some crazy shit.
Yeah, it is absolutely insane. Yeah. I did a whole podcast with Grok.
That probably was good.
And it was literally he started trying to showboat, or she started trying to showboat. Like, as soon as I said, Grok, what we're going to do is we're going to do a podcast on Madhouse Bar Talks. As soon as I did that, she tried to take over. She's sticking her chest out, like trying to be the big shot. I'm telling you, it's wild. It's like she's not supposed to do that. You know, she's not supposed to get like starstruck because she's on a podcast.
Yeah,
that's weird. It's bizarre. Well, I mean, right? Isn't that odd?
A little bit.
But yeah, so I read the book Chaos a year ago.
Okay.
Have you read the book yet?
No.
Read the book and maybe you'll change your mind.
All right.
Chaos is about the Manson murders.
Okay.
But it all relates all back to the CIA and everything through this book that this Tom wrote that he did a 30-year deep dive.
Okay.
And once he got involved, it's wild, like how the CIA was involved, what they've, and this isn't even, the things he puts in his book are factual. These are hearings that happened in the 70s in Congress.
Do you think we have a space shuttle?
Well, not anymore. We did.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sorry. A space station.
Yeah, for sure. But that's not past the belt.
Okay.
That's not past the radiation belt. The problem is they haven't shown where human life can get past that. They've never shown it.
Even suited up.
Not even suited up. No. Even not even a monkey. They haven't put past that radiation belt. They haven't proven that to me. They say they did it. You're
just not convinced.
Not anymore. Not when you look at the footage, you look at the way that the tether line going out to it is sagging and it's in space. It's not supposed to sag. He's holding it up. I mean, there's so many things. The curvature of the Earth in the video just looks a little too tight to me. It doesn't have like what I would think it would have had. It doesn't look like, it looks like the curvature in the Earth is, although larger than the moon they show in the picture, I don't think it's like an equal balance of what they're showing. I mean, you'd have to look. I mean, if you deep dive it, I mean, I don't think you would come out with the same conclusion. I really don't.
I think I would, but that's all right.
All right. Deep dive and find out.
Okay.
Look for Buzz Aldridge, though, first. That would be the first thing I would want you to look at.
Probably deep dive nuclear power plants first, though.
Nuclear power plants?
Yeah, because I want us to go nuclear.
You're pushing for that.
I am.
You're pushing for that.
I believe solar and nuclear, I think, is where to go. Windmills, wind turbines, I'm not such a big fan of. They have a lot of maintenance problems with them.
Yeah, they're more expensive, I think, than anything.
They really are, and I don't think they cause cancer or anything like that. But I think they're not worth the effort.
Yeah, no, we don't need anything that even if you question, I don't think cancer, I think that's all in our diet. I think for the most part, I that's one thing. Did you like Bobby Kennedy or no?
There are aspects of what he talks about that I love, not just love. There are aspects of what he says and does that I think are more profit motivated than they are health motivated.
Really?
Yeah.
Profit motive? Yeah. Like what? I'd like to know which one of those you think is profit motivated.
I mean, he files lawsuits and he
absolutely
and he stands to make money from certain things if they happen. And now he's in a position actually to impact the outcome of lawsuits that he and his group have filed over the years. And that always bothers me when someone, it's like the president, he is in a position to make decisions on cryptocurrency is a good one. I'm dead against cryptocurrency, dead against it. Think it's for drug dealers and criminals, period, full stop. We have other systems that can do electronic money. We don't need crypto.
We are in agreement with that. I agree with that. But that being said, do you own any crypto?
No.
Okay.
No.
Just curious.
I had a chance to get some about 10 years ago, and I'm still pissed that I didn't do it.
You should be.
But you know why? Oh, I can tell you how much money I would have today.
When I bought this place, a buddy of mine, Dave Now, was begging me to buy Bitcoin. And at the time, I mean, this was almost 8 years ago now. At the time, I just thought I just don't get it. I'm not messing with it. I don't understand it.
That's why I didn't do it.
Yeah.
And I wish I could have bought in. I could have, I don't know. It was, I would, because I'm the kind of guy, I would have probably invested, and I was this close to investing. I thought, I'll put a couple of $1,000 into it, $2,500. I did the math on what that $2,500 would be today if I had done that. And it wasn't even that I didn't understand it. $2,500, I
doesn't matter.
Just way more money than that on far worse things. It was the fact that the guy said he knew a person who lost his code because you have to, or password, whatever. He lost it, and once you lose it, you can't access it.
You can't access it?
You can't access it. You cannot get into your own account unless you have your original password, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
And I thought to myself, shit, I lose passwords all the time. I could see myself, my investments were $250,000 and I lost the passcode or the password. It's some kind of a code that you have to have. Yeah. But
is it really crypto? I think that's all bullshit, though. That it's like I mean, for one, I think that's. I don't think if you go digital, there's no way it's going to be like hidden. That's what they claim, but there's no way it's digital, dude. Everything on the internet keeps a print. Oh well, it does.
I'm with you. They claim, which is why it's so expensive to manufacture it. A Bitcoin, if you will, because of this complicated formula. But I'm thinking about some guy in Japan came up with this thing, and he didn't.
Well, I figured out. I finally had somebody explain it to me in dummies terms that I understand.
Yeah.
Because I go, how does it get value?
Yeah.
That's what we want to know, right?
Yeah,
how does it get value?
Yeah.
And he told me that what happens is that every transaction that happens all over the world has to be verified.
Okay.
When you have like a cryptocurrency like that, and when they're mining, those mines are verifying transactions and getting a small fee for it.
Okay.
And that's where the income actually comes from.
Okay.
That's what mining is. That's how he explained it to me. And now that makes sense because now that sounds like real money.
Yeah.
So that makes a little more sense to me. But until he said that, I never understood any of it. I'm like, this is like you're just making money? That's weird.
Yeah. It's like any other scarce thing. You can create value anywhere. I mean,
Correct, yeah.
If it's scarce and somebody wants it, which is why when the president of the United States said, I think crypto is a good idea, after he had spent years saying, I think crypto is a bad thing, he changed their balance sheet by a significant amount of money. And the fact that he got into it at the same time that he was talking about doing that really bothers me. So,
Well, I think that he started to understand that maybe it's something we can't avoid. Because I'm in that point now. I'm the same way. I just bought some crypto for the first time.
Did you really?
Yeah, I just did it and not because of Trump, but it was actually prior to all that happening. But I just thought, what's it going to hurt? Actually, Scotty Campana is like, he goes, what's it going to hurt you? Throw $1,000 at XRP. What's it going to hurt you? It ain't going to hurt you. It's just like, if you lose it, you lose it.
Which is why I was going to do it 10 years ago. And trust me, I wish I had.
Right.
I really do. So as much as I criticize it, and I think it's for criminals, I still wish I had.
I don't know that criminal. You think criminals are using it? I don't think criminals are.
Oh, all the time.
Is that what it is?
Sure.
Are you sure?
100%.
Really?
Yeah, 100%.
I guess I don't know that world. What are criminals using it for?
They've done just to exchange money and
they do that through PayPal and all that stuff too.
I'm not saying they don't have other ways. They do it through pizza shops, for crying out loud. So I get it. That's low tech.
My brother passed away in 2022. My brother left here and went. He worked with me in the Carpenters Union. My company originally, James Interiors, was a union shop in Lorain.
Okay. And
he served his apprenticeship with us. When he topped out, he ended up going to Marshall University. My sister was there. He went to visit her, and then they both, he decided, I'm going to go to college like you. He's going to go to college.
Yeah.
Well, his last year, he transfers to Hawaii. He goes to Hawaii. We don't see him a whole lot from there on out. He transfers to Hawaii for his job, managing, I think he went with Outback originally, I think, if I remember right. But he worked at the Maui Brewing Company, all kinds of places while he was there. He was in Hawaii a long time. But he never had anything there. Not a whole lot of anything. Okay. So I talked him into coming back. I go, hey, I run a restaurant. I still do the construction company. You're a carpenter, and you've been doing nothing but restaurants since you got out of college. I talk him into coming back here. He comes back. He moves back here. He has a drug habit I didn't know about. When he left, he wouldn't even cuss. Drink beer, smoke cigarettes. He never smoked cigarettes. I had no clue he had these issues. It was sad. But when we got into his phone, that's how he was paying for everything. He was transferring through, I want to say it was PayPal. I think they were just doing it through PayPal. I think they were just sending. And then we were seeing it was a lot. It was a lot of money. But we were seeing that's how they were paying was PayPal. But it wasn't no crypto. It was just PayPal.
Yeah, I'm not talking about low level. I'm talking about.
Oh, you're talking major tax invasions and shit like that. Yeah. Oh, okay, I got you.
Organized criminals.
The
guys.
Italians.
Some of them are. Hate to say it.
my Joe Destro that had Avon Cleaners. Yeah. He used to take us on Sunday mornings to the Italian club. I'm sure you went there in Sandusky.
Oh yeah.
Had the brunch. It was amazing. It was beautiful. It was wonderful. We loved it. It was one of our favorite things to do on Sunday mornings. I mean, my little girl, I don't know if she even remembers going there now at this point, but
Italian American Brotherhood Club. They had one in Cleveland.
Like that, still just as nice?
Not anymore. And it wasn't nearly as nice as the one in Sandusky. It was an old building in Murray Hill. And I think Wednesday nights was family night. There wasn't a woman or a kid in the room when we got together for family.
That sounds right. But we would go Sunday morning for that brunch. I loved it.
Oh,
It was
wonderful.
amazing. I mean, it was good stuff. But every time we pull up, because I'm Irish and American Indian, and every time we pull up, and I'd make Dago jokes, and I'm like, oh man, you got the gun, and I think I offended him a couple times because I would go too far with it. Which I'm just trying to be funny. Mafia is all I knew about it.
If you're Irish in Cleveland in the 70s, you made too many of those jokes. You might start your car one day and end up in the next street.
Like Danny Green.
There was a lot of bombings back then. That's an interesting period.
I don't remember any of that stuff too much. Like I've read about it, but I don't remember it in real time.
What year were you born?
73.
Yeah, so you were too young.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, they were blowing shit up everywhere.
Yeah,
that was tit for tat, just back and forth.
What was that like when you were a kid? Like, because you're a young man in that 60s, like that revolution's going on, the Manson shit that happened.
Yeah.
Like, what was that like?
Looking back on it, it seems like a bigger deal than it was then. I mean, it was horrifying, like with Manson and with the bombings in Cleveland, it happened so often. It was just kind of like, oh, well, it was covered in the paper, but it didn't stop me from going to Cleveland. I didn't feel like I had to carry a gun to go to Cleveland or anything like that. It just was a difficult time. I was probably more traumatized by the assassination of John F. Kennedy than anything else.
You remember that?
I do, like it was yesterday. I was at St. Peter's School in class. I was in the 7th grade, and I remember the nun came over to the loudspeaker and said, we want everybody in class to bow your heads and pray because our president, remember, this first Catholic president, that was a big deal.
Oh, yeah. Back then, it was a huge deal.
Big deal. Can't tell you how big a deal.
And Kennedy was an amazing
person.
He was president, person, everything. He was amazing.
Yeah, war hero, the whole bit, and family, and just everything. And we literally all put our heads down in complete silence, every classroom in the whole school. And then a little while longer, she came back on and said, the president has died. And they dismissed our classes, and we all went home. And that day I'll remember, that was traumatic.
Yeah, I wasn't alive, obviously, but I can imagine.
The assassination of Martin Luther King was also a big deal. Probably, to me, not as much then as it is today. When I look back on the whole set of circumstances, you got to remember, our news was filtered back then.
Absolutely.
And
still is.
It still is, but actually, I think it's less filtered today. It's just...
Oh, 100%.
Now it's just all opinionated along with the news.
Yeah, it's not news, it's opinions now.
Almost entirely.
I agree.
It's just so irritating to me.
Yeah.
But they filtered it. And so we didn't always get the whole story, everything that led up to it. I know more about those kinds of historical things today because of the things I've read as an adult than I understood as a kid living through them.
Sure. Okay.
Other than it was a big deal. I knew that. I understand my parents, other adults were upset by these things, but I didn't really appreciate what was going on at the time. Movies like A Clockwork Orange, for example, I found bizarre and troubling beyond words. And that's why I'm kind of an anti-violent, anti-war kind of person, because I've seen that stuff and I can see it gets you nothing at all.
Yeah,
Not that I'm not willing to fight.
9/11, no. Oof.
Yeah,
I remember that.
That's...
I've got a picture of my daughter, Drew. I lived in Lorain at the time, on Willow and South Lorain. And my daughter drew a picture on her easel, and it's a picture, and it's got a picture, and she's only 6 at the time. It's a picture of my wife at the time and me tears in her eye, TV in the background, and I've got the picture somewhere, and I share it a lot on 9/11. I was a 6-year-old, and that's when I snapped out of it because I thought, wow, this is what she sees out of me right now. I've got to do better.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's where I was for a few days. I mean, it was.
Me too.
It was. Oh.
We all. I was supposed to fly that day.
Oh my God, you're kidding.
No. I for business for Spitzer. I was their general counsel and kind of running a lot of companies, and I had to fly in some place. One of the car manufacturers was having meetings, I think, in Las Vegas, and so I was supposed to fly out that morning, and I went into Spitzer management to get some paperwork. My flight wasn't until like 11 a.m. or closer to noon. And I go in, and Al's there, and he has the TV on, as he always did. We always had the news on. And we're sitting talking. I say, I'm going to get ready to go here now to the airport. It was around 8:30. And shortly after that, of course, the news came on that a plane had hit. And it was like, I've heard of planes hitting skyscrapers, and I'm thinking some prop plane.
Same thing I did, yeah.
Some pilot, just got off course or whatever the hell.
Yeah.
Happened. Maybe it was cloudy. And then I'm seeing, and it's like, it's just a bright sunny day. It's like today.
Yeah. And then they said it was a big boy. It wasn't a little plane.
It was a big plane. I'm thinking, wait a minute. And so my lawyer, now I'm immediately suspicious. I keep doing that. I'm so sorry.
You're fine.
I'm Italian. I talk with my hands.
Yeah.
I immediately got suspicious. And then we're talking, now we're watching the news, he and I are both, and it's because, you could see the smoke and everything like that. And I was watching it live, I watched the second plane hit.
Yeah, same. And then when the buildings crumbled too.
I looked at Al. This is before the buildings crumbled. It's just
no, I know, but I'm saying I seen both of those live, and
I looked at Al,
crazy.
And I said, Al, I'm not going anywhere today. There's no way I'm going anywhere today. Something serious is going on right now. The second one was no damned accident. Obviously, right? And I just looked at him and I said, I know I'm not going anywhere.
And there was probably one above your head.
Right, I was saying that.
Probably was.
100%. It was being controlled by Oberlin.
Yeah.
And it flew over us and of course,
turned right there at the 113 and 57 right there pretty much.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
And then flew into the ground in Pennsylvania when those guys rushed the cockpit. And it was like, that's going to stay with me forever.
Yeah, that is something.
That one ain't leaving me.
No, and it wasn't like, and I obviously wasn't in Pearl Harbor. You might have been, but
I was a gunner.
But in Pearl Harbor, it was in Hawaii. Mm-hmm. This could have happened right here, right now.
Yeah.
Like that was like, you felt under attack. Like you really felt like for the
100%.
first time that America had been under attack. I mean, and you felt like you didn't know when it would stop, where it would end, what was next. It was
eerie. To see no planes in the sky for a week, 2 weeks, whatever it was. It was weird.
I remember thinking at the time, thank God it's not John Kerry in front of the office. I remember thinking that. So I honestly did. I swear to God.
Yeah.
Not that I'm the biggest Bush fan today, but at the time I was really I felt like Bush was the right guy at the moment. Looking back, I don't know.
So much, yeah.
I mean, I think there's too much that gets even as a president. That's the one thing I do like about Trump is I don't think they push him around as much.
Oh no. Yeah.
But I think they did in 2020.
They did.
I think they played him like a fiddle.
He didn't understand the system.
Yes. I think he got played.
Today, he understands the system.
Yeah. And I appreciate. And I want to see another president, I don't care who he is, like that. Because that's what but the problem is they usually end up like Kennedy. That's the problem when you don't play the system. Yeah.
Damn right.
And I mean, obviously which I don't understand. I mean, he's been twice now that people, but it seems like they're weird lone gunmen, like just crazy nutcases. But I mean, that's kind of what they said Oswald was too. But it's hard to believe that was. But you said that about that being a big deal, the JFK, and I brought up the chaos book. So have you ever heard about Jolly West? Do you know who Jolly West is?
No.
Jolly West ran a project. He stood in front of Congress. He's done this in the 70s. They talked about it. He's the one who he had to answer to what they did during MK Ultra. And MK Ultra, they were trying to do mind control drugs with the military after World War II. Similar to why we want to do AI now, because Russia's doing it. We can't get left behind. We got to figure out. We got to know. Same reason, basically. So, and he was in charge of that. That's what he did. He was the guy that interviewed Jack Ruby right after he assassinated Oswald. And then Jack Ruby was crazy as shit. Okay? Same guy ran the clinic in San Francisco that Charles Manson was in.
Ooh, that's interesting.
It's pretty wild. I'm telling you, that book will blow your hair back.
Now I'm going to go get it.
It'll blow your hair back.
Yeah.
I have one, but my daughter's borrowing it right now.
That's what I.
All right, give it to you.
Anyhow.
Yeah,
I buy books for other people, but I don't borrow them. I buy them because I have tons of books.
He started in '99 doing a 30-year Time magazine or whatever it was, little magazine article. He's going to do a 30-year on Manson.
Wow.
Took him 30 years to write this book.
Jeez.
It's worth it. I think his name's Tom O'Neill, I believe, if I remember right.
All right.
It's a wild book. I mean, and he wasn't he wasn't a conspiracy theory when he started.
But he ended up that way.
Yeah, but he's real careful to let you know proven stuff. Like, he only wants to give you the things that are proven. Like I said, Jolly West was in Congress and has spoke to these things.
Yeah, I dismiss things where they don't give me some statistics to back it up. I got to have at least something.
Yeah, you got to prove it to me. I'm with you. I'm with you. I mean, I'm not a big conspiracy theorist, but that being said, the moon freaks me out, and it only makes sense. Think about it. You're going against Russia. I mean, you got Hollywood, and Hollywood is like the rock stars of the U.S. I mean, and you've got to make it look to Russia like
we're there.
Yeah, we did it already, so back down.
Yeah.
We're the bosses of this.
All right.
It makes sense. I mean, why wouldn't it?
I mean, that makes sense.
It's a smart move, really. I mean, if you're looking at it,
it would have been.
Yeah.
No question.
So, I mean, then it makes you start to think a little different and this and that. So, what's Tony's? I just want to find out before we end this. What's your future plans now? What do you have going, and what do you have in the pipeline? What do you want to see happen in Lorain? What do you want to do? I mean, you seem to. A lot of people think you're the puppet master around here. Are you?
I'm not.
No.
I probably don't do enough to dissuade people from thinking that. Do I have friends who end up in office? Yeah, of course. But these are friendships I've had for 30 or 40 or 50 years. It wasn't like I planned that out. The current mayor was my law partner for 30 years. We've known each other for a long time. His wife and I went to high school together.
Wait, was Bradley your partner in '79?
Yeah. Let me think. No, not until the 80s.
Okay.
But Jack ended up being mayor by a confluence of things that you couldn't duplicate again in a million years, and you certainly couldn't have planned out. There was a law that I'm on the Board of Elections right across the street, a law that I didn't even know existed, election law, that basically said I understood the sore loser law that says if you you lose in a primary, your political party can't appoint you to some different office in the general election.
Sure,
running.
right.
Okay,
Makes sense.
Perfect sense. Yeah, but what I didn't understand was that that statute was so broad that if you ran in the primary in one office, and whether you lost or you won, that you couldn't be appointed to a different office to run in the general election.
Okay.
That's what the law was. Well, every Democrat who could have conceivably thought about running for mayor that year didn't run because we had an incumbent mayor, Chase Rittenhour.
Yeah.
Okay? And nobody felt like they could beat him, so nobody ran against him in the primary. They all ran for their council seats or whatever it might have been, auditor, treasurer, whatever. That was our whole bench of people who could run for, or even think about running for mayor.
Did Rittenhour do the city 30?
There are a lot of people who felt that way.
I feel
Because right after the primary, he then says, I'm stepping down.
And took a pretty good job too, right?
With Republic Services, yeah, BFI, whatever they're called.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't, that's not the part that bothers me. The part that bothers me is that he apparently was at least considering this.
Well, but while he was mayor, he signed a contract with them where they took over.
Well, we'd had a contract with them for quite a while, but
It's not true. We were paying a separate bill. It wasn't built into utilities prior.
oh no, it wasn't. I'm sorry. Yeah, it wasn't built into our utility. But I mean, I think BFI had been picking up our garbage before in our. I'd have to go look to be sure.
They were, but there was a definite like we at the time I had the apartments on Central.
Okay.
I could pay for a dumpster and put it there.
Yeah.
From anybody. I
Right.
could have a dumpster service there at any given time. After that, I could no longer do that because it was attached to a water bill.
Oh,
and we all
okay.
had to go. There was
down.
yeah.
Well, so but
I'm not. I'm just.
yeah,
just
set
okay.
that one
All right.
aside.
Okay.
Set
Okay.
that one aside.
All right. All right.
Where I thought it wasn't proper was if you're thinking about leaving.
Don't run in a primary.
Yeah, because nobody was going to take you on, and you're an incumbent mayor doing a decent job. Nobody's going to take you on in the primary. So all those people were now excluded from us appointing them to take his position in the Democrat nominee.
They couldn't be your Harris, huh?
Pardon me?
They couldn't be your Harris.
No, they couldn't.
How was Harris allowed to do that if that's illegal?
Because she,
Was the VP or something?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right.
yeah,
Okay.
and plus they're federal. This is only
It's
Ohio.
okay. I got you. Okay, I got you. I got you.
Only
Okay.
Ohio has this law, which is kind of weird. Okay, so we literally had to go look for somebody who was willing to take the appointment, who could, in our mind, win a general election and do a decent job, right? I mean, and Jack wasn't thinking about it. I didn't go to Jack and say, you ought to do this. A cousin of his went to him and said, Jack, you ought to do this. Because there's like nobody else. And he was at the point where he wanted to retire from practicing law. He'd been doing it, as long as I'd been doing it. And do something different. And he's a Lorain guy, and he lived in Lorain. And he comes to me and says, I'm thinking about going for the appointment. And I looked at him and I said, are you serious? He says, I said, you're willing to give up the law practice? He's making
Bank.
3 times as much money
Yeah.
as a practicing lawyer as he would as mayor. I said, you sure you want to do this? He said, yeah. I said, well, I don't know who else might be interested in it. And it turned out there were 1 or 2 other people who couldn't get the appointment, and he got the appointment. And they wanted me to go with one of our other people and challenge the law. And I said, I'm the chairman of the biggest city, Democrat city in the county. If we take that risk, and if the Supreme Court says, no, they're not qualified, then we don't have a candidate for mayor
Right.
in Lorain. The Democrat Party doesn't have I said, that ain't happening on my watch. I ain't taking that chance.
Right. Right.
Turns out that the Supreme Court and legislature said, no, that's exactly what we meant. Because they had a chance to change the law, and they didn't. They didn't. They continued to follow it. So it turned out I was right about that, not taking that risk, and we appointed Jack. And everybody thought, well, you did it because it's your law firm. No, it was like the only guy who was interested in doing it. The only other guy who wanted to dropped out before we got anywhere.
Democrat-wise, there was some Republicans that wanted to run.
Yeah, well, I'm not going to appoint no damn Republican to replace
Well, isn't that what they just did in the
Democrat.
prosecutor's office?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah.
Did they?
That's who J.D.
No.
Tomlinson got replaced by a Republican that's not a Republican.
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, yeah, you can win it. You can win it in a fair and square election. But we're talking about appointing
Yeah,
someone.
appointing.
to
Okay,
take,
that's different. Okay, I got you.
in other words,
Appointing
we
it.
had an
Yeah,
open slot.
Yeah, that makes sense. You have
coming
to
out of
appoint it.
I
right.
need a nominee. Okay, our nominee just resigned, and Jack was it. And personally,
What made you get so involved in politics? What did that?
That's a good question, and it was just organic. Came out of law school. Remember, my dad ran So I got a little taste of it when I was like 7 or 8 years old, whatever it was, and I didn't like it, and didn't care for it. But you're a lawyer, you come out of law school, and there are a lot of things going on, as we had talked about, in the 60s and the early 70s. I'm coming out of law school, it's 1976. I'd lived through all the things you and I just talked about. And I just decided, I got involved in Jimmy Carter's campaign. I was asked to...
That's where you started?
That is exactly where I started.
That was Campanos was Carter, a big, they were big supporters of Carter. They had actually had him at his house.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, Lorain went pretty strong for Carter.
Yeah.
And I was out there walking
He's a great guy.
He's a wonderful
He got
human
played,
being.
But he is a wonderful human being.
Wonderful human being. Overthought things.
Yeah, he got played, I think.
Yeah,
he's one of those.
That
deep state that they talk about, that's a real thing. They really know how to play that fiddle.
The deep state is a real thing.
Yeah.
There's an entrenched bureaucracy. You can argue with whether it's good or bad. Depends, I guess, on whether you like the direction of the country. But is it a real thing? Damn right it's a real thing.
Nobody likes the direction of this country. I don't think anybody does. I think that's why everybody's so pissed. They're blaming each other.
Yeah.
But I think that nobody likes where it's heading. And
I'm with you.
And they'll just blame whoever's driving.
That's right. Whoever. If it's my team driving the bus, I'm okay with it, even though they might be doing something that I don't like. And if it's your team, then I'm opposed to it, and that's just plain stupid.
See, I was not a Trump supporter. I laughed when he ran. My daughter got a hold of me. I just laughed. I'm like,
come on, this guy ain't going anywhere.
Right. Then all of a sudden, I started seeing him winning, and I'm looking at the signs, Hillary signs. I'm going, what? There's no Hillary signs anywhere. There's Trump everywhere. I'm like, this is Lorain County. There should be no Trump signs.
Right.
Well, this is pretty wild. And then I'm listening to him. I'm like, okay, maybe I could get behind this guy. Maybe I could get behind him. But then when COVID happened,
yeah,
I remember him specifically I was watching an interview, and I remember him saying that, some people are going to get hurt from this. There's probably going to be some people who get rich off it. They're going to buy some businesses cheap, and things like that. And I remember thinking, okay, he's got his head right.
Yeah.
And then that's not what he did at all. They started just passing out money, handing out cash, and I was pissed at him. I was not, by the end of his presidency, I was not a big Trump fan.
Overdid it. And it's not even funny.
He won me back over the next 4 years, slowly and trickling. But Biden didn't help, man. That was a horrible, horrible poor person to have in power. I just don't feel like he did anything good. I mean, maybe he did, but not that I know of.
I think he did do some good things. I think too much of... I think he wanted to be president so much and hold that mantle that he was willing to accept advice and do things that were probably contrary to his Irish Catholic moderate upbringing.
Yeah.
I really do. But it's because he wanted to stay there, and he wanted to stay there for 2 terms. All the stuff about I only want 1 term, which I bought into, it turned out not to be true. He wanted a 2nd term, and it causes you to do things that you otherwise might not have done. If he'd have gone in with the mind of I'm 1 term, and we're going to do this thing my way, and we're going to get some of these things turned around, things that I believe he believed in. I think we'd have been better off, but he didn't. And he did overdo it in something. But the infrastructure bill, I thought, overall, probably a good thing. The additional money, whatever they called it, the Anti-Inflation Act.
Yeah.
That was such bullshit. Well, you're spending all this money and you're calling it anti-inflation. What, are you kidding me? And probably $1 trillion left this country to fraudsters all over the world.
Yeah.
Because we did it so fast and with so little, proper audit requirements and so forth, that I've seen statistics as much as $1 trillion left the country. Didn't even. It's
probably more than that.
One thing to get, it was more than that they spent.
No, I mean, it was probably more
than that. But the money
that
that got spent here is fine. Not fine, it caused inflation, but the $1 trillion that left the country
can't get it back.
Yeah, that's gone. It didn't get spent here. Nothing. Nobody benefited from it.
Right.
We just foot the bill.
My biggest thing that I would want to leave this interview.
Yeah.
All right, we'll end right now.
Okay.
But my biggest thing I'd want to, because a lot of people that you know will probably watch this, and a lot of them are in politics, and a lot of them make decisions.
Okay.
So you're Mr. Giardini. So you're the big
Tony.
Yeah, you're the big guy around here.
I'm 5'8", 155.
I want to make sure that the people that are making decisions in the city realize that when I look up the stats for the Lorain County,
Yeah.
it tells me that the best career jobs are in public service.
Yeah, that's not a good thing, is it?
No, let's fix that.
Yeah.
That's got to be fixed.
I agree with you.
That's what they're telling me where your options are for income.
Yeah.
Public service.
Yeah, that's not a good thing.
No, that's not a good thing.
That is not sustainable, as they say.
That is definitely not sustainable. And that's what I would ask that everybody takes away from everything. That to me, I want people to think that before they make that decision. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I'm totally with you on that. That needs to be fixed.
And bring back vocational schools.
And sooner the better.
I appreciate you taking the time to sit with me. This has been awesome. I enjoyed it. I've wanted to talk to you a long time, so I really enjoyed it.
I'm glad we had a chance. I hope you invite me back sometime.
Absolutely.
All right, brother.
As soon as you do something stupid, then.
Yeah, that's fine.
No, I'm just kidding.
Shit, I do stupid things every day.
So you'll be back tomorrow.
Yeah, I could be.
All right. I appreciate you. I really appreciate you taking the time with me. I really do.
It was really interesting talking to you. I'm glad I took the opportunity to do it.
All right. Thanks a lot.
All right, man. Well, take care.
I got to go bartend.
Oh, yeah. She's calling right now. Hey, Julie. Hey. I'm on my way right
Who's going wild like a
There's nobody
monkey gone
inside.
rogue, running his own lane in a circus of smoke. Guido hit the eject, dipped out the scene. Jimmy steered the chaos, kept it